Hello everyone and welcome. In today's video we're going to discuss some systems and game changes Iron Mace really needs to be focusing on right now in preparation for the next wipe currently planned for the release in the second week of September 2024. We are talking about critical features and quality of life stuff to make the game more fun to play. We will discuss some relatively easy changes to existing systems and introduce some concepts that need to be included in kind of long-range planning to ensure the game continues to reach for its potential. This video is a partial reaction to a meandering 2-hour conversation SDF, one of the lead developers at Iron Mace and a huge personal fan of my channel, had with Jay Griffith on his stream talking about some of the items he and his team are currently working on, none of which are represented here and really should be. So let's start off by talking about the lowest of the low-hanging fruit, and that is minor tweaks to the questing system. We need a complete once-over of the current questing system for purposes of streamlining and silliness reduction. A large chunk of these quests are just not fun at their current scale, particularly when players can't choose what map or what boss will be given on any given run. First things first, we need to remove the escape X times from this map without taking damage. This quest does not measure mastery of the game in any form. It measures patience. Patience to sit around and not play the way we'd like to play near an extraction while waiting for it to open. It's silly. Please take it out. Next quest, remove extracts from this map Y times. Yeah, I'm not sure you could craft a lazier quest, but all this really does is measure playtime. It might as well read, play more dark and darker. Yeah, just remove that entirely. There's no reason for it to be there. Remove deploy 12 campfires in the ice caves. Guys, you simply can do better than this. This quest might as well read, spend 250 gold on fires and then stand around for 3 minutes installing them before dying and leaving the instance. That is not fun, nor is it engaging gameplay. Modify this quest, kill a ridiculous number of Wendigos, and bring me their body parts. The scale on this quest, it's a new one this push, it's completely out of whack. Please lower the amount of items we have to bring out and the number of times we have to kill Wendigos. And now to the big one. Kill a specific boss X times. This is likely the most frustrating quest category in the game for a few reasons. Here's a breakdown on the many ways that this is super frustrating. Let's start with the fact that we have to wait outside of the game for the map we want to come around in the rotation. Then we have to play for 15 to 20 minutes to get to level 2, Inferno, to see if we've gotten good RNG and actually get the boss we need on that map. Then we have to hope that monsters don't steal the killing blow from us and we lose credit, invalidating the last 30 minutes of our shared playtime. So speak up in the comments section if you've had this happen to you, but this is definitely what happened to me and my amigos. So me and my 2 amigos are working on the quest, kill Ghost King 2 times. Should be pretty simple, right? We have to beat a boss that we have on farm twice. No problem. Wrong. It took us 12 hours of playtime across 2.5 sessions to see the Ghost King only 3 times. 2 times we killed him. 1 time, we spent the entire Inferno session fighting teams and didn't really have enough time to boss when we were done. Like, I'll have a solution for this problem below. And then the last quest I want to highlight is being just completely ridiculous. Bring me 3 Ghost King crowns. Like, really? You guys can shove it. These things have a sub 5% drop rate. We need a total of 9 crowns to complete this quest for 3 characters. As I stated above, it can take 12 hours to see the Ghost King 3 times. Like, you don't need a solid grasp of statistics to know that this is just plain silly. So, shove it. Either lower the number that we need or drastically increase the drop rate on the crown. So here's my proposed solution for our lack of agency around map rotation in the current quest paradigm. Have the fortune teller sell us a MacGuffin for a moderate price. Let's say 500 to 1,000 gold. Let's call it an incense stick, okay? This consumable allows us to go down into Inferno and use it to replace the current boss with a specific boss based on the flavor of the MacGuffin we bring. Done, sorted. Please stop disrespecting our time with grindy RNG nonsense and find a way to give us at least a little agency to work on the progression we'd like to be working on in our playtime. What we really need Iron Mace to do is you need to have somebody, not SDF, go through all of the quests and rate them on a scale of how fun they are to complete as a player. Please then throw away all the low fund, high grind quests and give us something that's actually fun to achieve. If you need help locating the fun, my door is always open. Please reach out. From a long range perspective, know that if you continue to design map specific quests and you continue to add new maps to the game in future, you're just creating code and design debt over the long term. Like, focus up now and start looking at your quest design in a map agnostic way. It's only going to be more scalable over time. Also, please stop confusing grinding with fun. Thanks, the players. Let's jump into the Squire system. In the last Darkest Hour podcast, the crew asked Not Like This how he thinks Iron Mace should make the game more approachable for new players. I think this is a fantastic question, and I'm going to dedicate a whole video to answering that question from my point of view. But let's start with the easy, low-hanging fruit. Queue up for any game in the under 25 gear score lobby, and you'll see folks running around without shoes. This means they haven't used their Squire, and they likely don't even know their Squire exists. Iron Mace, this needs to be your top priority if you are at all interested in retaining new players. I propose that you take the Squire out of the merchant section and give him his own emphasis and a dedicated workflow which fires off upon character creation. As soon as new player finishes creating their character, they should be introduced to the Squire and walked through the early limited equipment options, such as at least having shoes. If this is too hard to implement for whatever reason in a short amount of time, can you please just add shoes to all the class templates that don't already have a starting shoe option? Movement speed is far too important in your game to handicap new players like this. Other Squire features we should think about while we have it open and on the table. If gear scores are going to be an important part of Dark and Darker, then the thresholds for those lobbies are also important to new players. We need the tools to manage around this aspect of the game. If you're going to persist in including gear score at all levels of the game, you have to acknowledge that players have to manage around those thresholds. Please add threshold selectors to the Squire so we can prevent new players from accidentally queuing up for lobbies they don't want to play. Simply presenting them with their numeric gear score is definitely a step in the right direction, but it is not a guardrail. It just kind of reduces your accountability in the problem. New features for the Squire. Add a sell all and a stash all button to the Squire interface to make it easy to liquidate or stash items and allow us to more quickly get back into the game. Allow us to designate one of our stash tabs for Squire use so that that is where he deposits by default any gear we shuttle that way. And while we're on the subject, do we really need 2 visits to 2 separate merchants every time we want to liquidate our inventories? I mean, this seems like an artifact of design which we have largely moved beyond. I'd love to hear someone make a case for why this user experience is of any value or anything more than a clumsy, time-consuming silliness. Let us just sell all of our stuff to a single vendor. So that kind of runs down all of the quick fixes that I think need to be put into place before the August wipe. But I do want to talk about long-range items. These are roadmap items I think Iron Mace should be working on that are all more important than the arena or the sorceress class. Let's talk about the AP system. The adventure point system, as it's currently implemented, is essentially poison to your game. Dark and Darker is made worse by the inclusion of the AP system. Everyone I've ever talked to about it finds it frustrating, grindy, and unfun. Everyone I know who's made it to Demigod has burned out on the game, and then taken a break till at least the next wipe, if not taking the next wipe off. So players come to believe that, attaining rank is somehow the end game for Dark and Darker. And they persevere through this terrible experience to attain their goal and then look back on this big effort that they put into the game as utterly not worth it. Like, until you have a working AP system that is both fun and rewarding to interact with, like, you need to realize that it's essentially just a battle pass system whose design intent is to reward players who invest the time and they get cosmetics. You desperately need to find a way to make it simple, fun, and rewarding, not a quasi RNG based grind in the least popular game mode, High Roller. It needs to incentivize good behavior, not bad behavior like teaming and cheating and extreme PvE, over playing the game that we love to play in the way that we prefer to play it. The AP system fundamentally asks us to play the game we love in a way that we don't like to play. And then you guys seem to be surprised when people get burned out being forced to play it that way. So this forcing of players to adapt the way they want to play to achieve their goals is at the heart of why this system is essentially a negative value to your product and is dragging down its overall value proposition. So keep it simple. Keep it simple, SDF. Reward players for cosmetics based on their playtime, or another equally bland metric, until you can locate the fun in a new refactored AP system. Okay, so other big picture items that need to be like actively focused for long-term delivery is queuing, map agency, and player clumping. Iron Mace, you need to be working on your queuing system to ensure a sense of fairness, but also to give players increased agency over map choice while simultaneously improving the overall quality of lobbies. Right now, you've optimized your queue logic for short queue times, and that's not a terrible choice given where we've been in the past. But when lobbies fill in seconds, you need to be more sophisticated and nuanced and add additional controls to assemble not only speedy lobbies, but increase the quality of those lobbies. This includes giving us an option to play the maps we want to play in the modes and the brackets we'd like to play them in, but also to begin to rate and rank aggression as a criteria for matchmaking. Some players are looking to learn and to PvE. Most players are looking to fight. Please begin tracking aggression as a metric and use it in a more nuanced matchmaking system. The end result will not only be fairness, but players who prefer a given playstyle playing more often with players who share that preference. This leaves the folks who want to farm Timmies completely out in the cold, but screw those betas, we don't care about them. Last thing on queuing before we change subjects, it's called Quick Play. It's a button that anyone can press in any game that says, I want to get into a map quickly regardless of any other criteria. Please implement a quick play button for those people who really don't care about what map or bracket they're going to play in, so that those guys can fill in around players who do have a preference and fill those lobbies faster. Quick play is a settled algorithmic science used throughout all of gaming. Please implement it at your earliest convenience. So now we're going to talk a little bit about dynamics and spawns, high-value loot, and map tile sets. I think this is on your radar already. But if it's not, it really needs to be a high priority long-term goal, is to establish some dynamics in the game for replayability, but also for fairness and balance immediately. We need randomized starting locations, some RNG about fixed static extracts and portal stone locations, as well as sub-boss locations and other high-value loot locations. All of this can likely be implemented faster than a truly dynamic map or tile set, certainly more so than interchangeable tile sets. And I'll tell you this, any incremental improvements you can make in this area over the next 6 weeks will be greatly improving the quality of all levels of play in the August wipe. So lastly, I want to hit some of the areas that SDF covered in some detail with Jay. SDF did some yapping about arenas and the new sorcerer class. I don't feel like either of these efforts are important, at least not in the context of the items we've discussed here today. I think the arena, as described, is completely missing the mark about what's fun in Dark and Darker's PvP, but I'm willing to give it the benefit of the doubt. In my mind, the inherent asymmetry is the best part of Dark and Darker's combat. Whether through group composition, gear, skill, or emergent circumstance, this asymmetry is where the fun is. Dealing with third parties, good and bad luck, whatever it is, it keeps it fresh and fun. Unless you aspire to run a competitive esport style arena system, which, as an aside, your balance history up to this point makes me very doubtful you could pull off, the arena is likely dead on arrival. I say this because it's going to be solved from a meta perspective in the first few weeks, and then it's destined to feel stale precisely because its top level design principle is symmetrical PvP. Gem sockets. I mean, he didn't talk a lot about it, but I'm going to say gem sockets sound like a great way to add more grind and gotcha nonsense into Dark and Darker. But I'm simply going to reserve judgment and comment until we have more specific information before rendering an opinion. With the Sorcerer, I'm very happy that you guys are working on new classes. I think the emphasis of your creative efforts needs to be on new maps and new classes, but I'm happy to see you guys are working to solve for the new Sorcerer class. I would rather you guys finish Druid, which still feels half done, and solve for the elephant in the room with regard to class discussion, and that being the overall design state of Wizard, Rogue, and Barbarian. I think all three of these classes need like a top-down rework, rebuilding them with scaling in mind. Otherwise, we're just going to continue to see them oscillate from broken to trash tier with even the most minor balance changes and tweaks. So that's my take on the short-term and long-term roadmap priorities for Iron Mace. I really hope that this video finds them and they're able to pay some attention to some of these quality of life issues. And we really need to stay focused on the new player experience and loading the top of the revenue funnel for a long-term, large, and stable player base. If you enjoyed this content, please give the video a like and consider subscribing. My Discord is linked below. Also, if you disagree with any of my assessments or wish to add further comments, doing it either here in the comment section of this video or on my Discord is a great way to start a great conversation. Thanks, and until next time, good luck in your battles to come. Koopa out.